In a bustling Nigerian kingdom, there lived a prince named Adebayo. His father, King Oluwaseyi, had ruled the land for many years, but now age was catching up with him. The time had come for Prince Adebayo to take over the throne and lead his people. However, there was a catch. According to the ancient laws of their community, a prince could only become king if he was married. This tradition was meant to ensure stability and continuity in the royal lineage. King Oluwaseyi and Queen Folake were eager to see their son crowned. They knew the importance of finding a suitable wife for Adebayo, not just for the sake of tradition, but also to strengthen their kingdom through a powerful alliance. "My son," the king said one evening, "you must find a wife soon. The elders are growing restless, and we cannot risk losing the throne to another family." Adebayo nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I know, father, but I don't want to rush into marriage with just anyone. I want a partner who will stand by me and help me lead our people wisely." The queen smiled at her son's words. "That's very noble of you, Adebayo. But remember, time is not on our side. We must act quickly." And so began the search for Prince Adebayo's bride. Over the next few weeks, the palace buzzed with activity as potential brides from wealthy and royal families across the land were invited to meet the prince. King Oluwaseyi and Queen Folake had high hopes that among these ladies, their son would find his perfect match. The first to arrive was Lady Amara, daughter of a powerful chief from the eastern lands. She was known for her beauty and grace, and many thought she would be an ideal choice for the prince. Adebayo, however, had other ideas. He didn't want to judge based on appearances alone. He devised a series of tests to gauge the character of each potential bride. For Lady Amara, he arranged a visit to the local orphanage. He wanted to see how she would interact with the less fortunate. To his disappointment, Amara showed little interest in the children, constantly checking her reflection and complaining about the heat. "I'm sorry, but I don't think Lady Amara is the right fit for our kingdom," Adebayo told his parents later that evening. The king and queen were surprised but respected their son's decision. They quickly arranged for the next candidate to visit. Lady Blessing, from a wealthy merchant family in the south, arrived next. She was known for her intelligence and business acumen. Adebayo decided to test her compassion and generosity. He disguised himself as a poor farmer and approached her in the market, begging for help to feed his family. Lady Blessing not only refused to help but berated him for not working harder. "Another one who isn't suitable," Adebayo sighed to his parents. The third candidate was Princess Chiamaka from a neighboring kingdom. She had a reputation for being cultured and well-educated. Adebayo's test for her involved a debate on the kingdom's policies. To his dismay, Princess Chiamaka showed little interest in the welfare of the common people, focusing instead on how to extract more taxes to fund lavish palace projects. The fourth and final candidate arranged by his parents was Lady Abele, daughter of a respected judge. Adebayo decided to test her honesty and integrity. He left a valuable royal pendant in her guest room and then accused a servant of stealing it. Lady Abele remained silent, allowing the innocent servant to be punished rather than admitting she had seen the pendant. After dismissing all four candidates, Adebayo faced his worried parents. "I'm sorry, mother and father, but I cannot marry someone who lacks compassion, generosity, wisdom, or integrity. These qualities are essential for a queen who will help me lead our people." King Oluwaseyi frowned deeply. "Son, I understand your concerns, but time is running out. The elders have given us an ultimatum. If you don't find a wife within 3 months, they will pass the crown to your cousin, Emeka." Adebayo's heart sank at this news. He knew his cousin Emeka was not fit to rule. He was selfish and cared little for the people. But the prince also knew he couldn't rush into marriage with someone he didn't trust. That night, as he lay in bed, an idea began to form in Adebayo's mind. He realized that to find a truly suitable wife, he needed to look beyond the walls of wealth and royalty. He needed to find someone with a genuine heart, someone who would love him for who he was, not for his crown. With determination in his eyes, Adebayo made a decision. He would embark on a journey to find his bride, but not as a prince. He would go in disguise, as a common man, and search for a woman who would love him without knowing his royal status. As the sun rose the next morning, Prince Adebayo prepared for the most important quest of his life, a quest that would determine not only his future but the future of his entire kingdom. Early the next morning, before the roosters had even begun to crow, Prince Adebayo snuck out of the palace. He had packed a small bag with some simple clothes and a little money. In the stables, he saddled his most ordinary-looking horse, a brown mare named Aduke. As he led Aduke out of the palace grounds, Adebayo's heart raced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had never been outside the palace without guards or royal escort. But he knew this was necessary if he wanted to find a genuine partner. Once he was far enough from the palace, Adebayo changed into the simple clothes he had packed, a worn tunic and trousers that had belonged to one of the stable boys. He messed up his usually neat hair and rubbed a bit of dirt on his face and hands. Looking at his reflection in a stream, Adebayo barely recognized himself. Gone was the polished prince, replaced by what looked like a common laborer or farmer. He smiled, satisfied with his disguise. Adebayo rode for several days, heading towards a town called Ajayi, far enough from the capital that he was unlikely to be recognized. As he approached the town, he rehearsed his story in his head. He would be Shegun, a farmer's son from a distant village, looking for work in the big town. The prince's first test came at the gates of Ajayi. The guard looked at him suspiciously, not used to strangers arriving alone. "What's your business here?" the guard growled. Adebayo, or Shegun as he was now known, lowered his eyes respectfully. "I've come looking for work, sir. Times are hard in my village, and I need to send money back to my family." The guard grunted but waved him through. Adebayo let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. His disguise had worked. As he rode into town, Adebayo was struck by the bustle and noise. He had visited towns before, of course, but always as a prince. The experience of entering as a common man was entirely different. No one bowed or cleared the way for him. He was just another face in the crowd. Adebayo found a small, cheap inn at the edge of town and rented a room for a week. The room was tiny and bare, with just a thin mattress on the floor and a wobbly table. It was a far cry from his luxurious chambers in the palace, but Adebayo felt a strange excitement. This was the beginning of his adventure. The next morning, Adebayo set out to look for work. He knew he needed to blend in and establish his cover story. Plus, he realized, he would need to earn money if he was to stay in town for long. His first stop was at a construction site where a new building was being erected. The foreman looked him up and down skeptically. "You ever worked construction before, boy?" he asked. Adebayo shook his head. "No, sir, but I'm strong and I learn quick. I'll work hard, I promise." The foreman scratched his chin, then nodded. "All right, we'll give you a try. But I'm warning you, it's tough work." Adebayo soon found out just how tough it was. By the end of the day, his hands were blistered, his back ached, and he was covered in dust and sweat. But he felt a sense of accomplishment he'd never experienced before. He had earned his wages through the sweat of his brow, just like the men he worked alongside. As he walked back to his inn that evening, Adebayo realized that this experience was already teaching him valuable lessons about the lives of his subjects. He vowed to remember these lessons when he returned to take the throne. But for now, he had a mission to focus on. Somewhere in this town, or perhaps the next, he hoped to find a woman who would love him for who he was, not for his crown. Little did he know, his quest was about to take an unexpected turn. After a week of hard labor at the construction site, Adebayo had settled into a routine. He would wake up at dawn, work all day, and return to his small room at the inn in the evening. His hands had begun to callous, and his muscles ached less each day. He was starting to understand the pride that came with honest, hard work. It was on a warm Saturday evening that Adebayo decided to treat himself to a meal at the local tavern. As he entered the lively establishment, his eyes were drawn to a young woman sitting alone at a table near the window. She had a quiet beauty about her, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Gathering his courage, Adebayo approached her table. "Excuse me, miss, would you mind if I joined you?" The woman looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she took in Adebayo's appearance. For a moment, he feared she would turn him away, but then she smiled and gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Please, sit down. I'm Amara," she said. "I'm Shegan," Adebayo replied, using his fake name. "Thank you for allowing me to join you." As they talked, Adebayo found himself captivated by Amara. She was intelligent and kind, with a quick wit that made him laugh. She told him she worked as a teacher at the local school, and her eyes lit up when she spoke about her students. Adebayo shared his cover story about being a farmer's son looking for work, and Amara listened with genuine interest. He found himself wishing he could tell her the truth, but he knew it was too soon. As the evening wore on, Adebayo realized he was developing feelings for Amara. He asked if he could see her again, and to his delight, she agreed. Over the next few weeks, Adebayo and Amara spent more time together. They would meet after work, taking walks through the town or sharing simple meals. Adebayo found himself falling deeper in love with her kind heart and sharp mind. However, as their relationship grew, Adebayo began to notice a change in Amara. She became more distant, often cancelling their plans at the last minute. When they did meet, she seemed distracted and unhappy. Finally, after nearly a month of courting, Amara sat Adebayo down for a serious talk. "Shegan," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I care for you, I truly do. But, I don't think we can continue seeing each other." Adebayo felt his heart sink. "Why, have I done something wrong?" Amara shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. "No, you've been wonderful. It's just, I come from a family with expectations. They want me to marry someone with prospects, someone who can provide a comfortable life. And as much as I wish it weren't true, I want that too." Adebayo felt a mix of hurt and disappointment wash over him. He wanted to tell her right then that he was a prince, that he could provide her with more comfort and luxury than she could imagine. But he held his tongue. He realized that if Amara couldn't accept him as a poor laborer, she wasn't the right person to be his queen. With a heavy heart, Adebayo bid Amara farewell. As he walked back to his small room at the inn, he reflected on the experience. It had been painful, but he had learned an important lesson about love and acceptance. Determined not to give up, Adebayo decided it was time to move on to another town. His perfect match was still out there somewhere, and he had a kingdom depending on him to find her. With a heavy heart but renewed determination, Adebayo packed his meager belongings and set out for a new town. He had been in a jail for over a month, and while the experience had taught him much, he knew he needed to continue his search. After 2 days of travel, Adebayo arrived in the bustling market town of Eko. This town was larger than a jail, with a diverse population of traders, craftsmen, and farmers. Adebayo hoped that among this mix of people, he might find someone who could see beyond appearances and social status. He found lodging in a small, crowded boarding house and quickly secured work as a porter in the busy marketplace. The work was physically demanding, requiring him to carry heavy loads for merchants and shoppers, but it allowed him to interact with a wide variety of people. It was during one of these busy market days that Adebayo met Nkechi. He had been hired to carry her purchases, and as they walked through the crowded streets, they struck up a conversation. Nkechi was vivacious and outgoing, with a laugh that seemed to brighten the air around her. Adebayo found himself drawn to Nkechi's energy and zest for life. She worked as a seamstress and had dreams of opening her own shop one day. When Adebayo, still in his guise as Shegan the laborer, asked to see her again, Nkechi agreed enthusiastically. Their courtship was a whirlwind of excitement. Nkechi introduced Adebayo to the vibrant nightlife of Eko, taking him to local music performances and dance gatherings. Adebayo, who had always been somewhat reserved, found himself swept up in Nkechi's exuberance. However, as the weeks passed, Adebayo began to notice some concerning patterns in Nkechi's behavior. She was always looking for the next exciting thing, never content with what she had. She would complain about their simple dates, comparing them unfavorably to the lavish outings of wealthier couples. "Oh, Shegan," she would sigh, Don't you wish we could dine at the fancy restaurants like those rich merchants? Or buy fine clothes like the nobles who pass through town? Adebayo would gently remind her of the joys in their simple life, but Nkechi seemed unable to appreciate what they had. She was constantly pushing Adebayo to find better paying work or to come up with schemes to make more money. The final straw came when Nkechi suggested that Adebayo try to befriend some of the wealthy merchants he encountered in his work as a porter, with the hope of gaining favors or financial benefits. Nkechi, Adebayo said, his voice firm but kind, I won't use people like that. It's not right. Nkechi's face fell, and she looked at Adebayo with a mixture of disappointment and frustration. But Shegun, don't you want a better life? Don't you want to be somebody? It was at that moment that Adebayo realized, with a heavy heart, that Nkechi was not the one for him. She was so focused on wealth and status that she couldn't see the value in integrity and simple happiness. I am somebody, Nkechi, Adebayo said quietly. And so are you. We don't need wealth or status to have worth. Nkechi didn't understand. She accused Adebayo of lacking ambition and drive. In the end, she left him for a merchant's son who could provide the lifestyle she craved. Once again, Adebayo found himself alone. But this time, he didn't feel quite as disheartened. He had learned another valuable lesson about the importance of contentment and integrity. These were qualities he would need in a queen, someone who could appreciate the simple joys of life while also understanding the responsibilities of leadership. As he prepared to leave Eko and continue his journey, Adebayo reflected on his experiences. He had now seen two different sides of love, one that couldn't accept a life of simplicity, and another that was too focused on material gain. He hoped that somewhere out there, he would find a balance, someone who could love him for who he was, appreciate what they had, and still strive to make the world a better place. With these thoughts in mind, Adebayo set out once more, his time growing short but his determination stronger than ever. Adebayo left Eko with a mix of emotions. He was disappointed by his experiences with Amara and Nkechi, but he also felt that each encounter had taught him valuable lessons about love, character, and what he truly wanted in a partner. However, time was running short. He had less than a month left to find a wife before he risked losing the throne to his cousin Emeka. With this urgency in mind, Adebayo decided to travel to one last town before returning to the palace. He set out on foot, his horse Aduke having been sold weeks ago to maintain his cover and support himself. As he walked along the dusty road, the sun beating down mercilessly, Adebayo spotted a small roadside stall in the distance. The aroma of frying yam wafted towards him, making his stomach growl. He realized he hadn't eaten since early that morning. As he approached the stall, he saw a young woman tending to a large pan of oil, carefully frying slices of yam to a golden brown. She looked up as he neared, offering a warm smile that seemed to light up her entire face. "Welcome, traveler," she said. "You look like you could use some food and rest." Adebayo nodded gratefully. "Thank you. I've been walking for hours." The woman, who introduced herself as Alana, served him a generous portion of fried yam with spicy sauce. As Adebayo ate, they began to talk. He learned that Alana ran this stall to support herself and her younger siblings after their parents had passed away. "It's not much," she said, gesturing to the humble stall, "but it allows us to survive, and sometimes even help others in need." Adebayo was impressed by Alana's resilience and generosity. As they continued to talk, he found himself drawn to her kind spirit and practical wisdom. As the sun began to set, Adebayo realized he had no place to stay for the night. Seeing his concern, Alana made an offer that surprised him. "I have a small room attached to our house," she said. "It's not much, but you're welcome to stay there for the night. No one should sleep on the road." Touched by her kindness to a stranger, Adebayo accepted. Little did he know, this simple act of generosity would change the course of his life. Over the next few days, Adebayo found reasons to stay in the small village where Alana lived. He offered to help her with her yam stall, learning the art of frying yam to perfection. In return, Alana continued to let him stay in the small room. As they worked side by side, Adebayo found himself increasingly drawn to Alana. She was kind, hardworking, and had acquired strength that he admired. Unlike Amara and Nkechi, Alana seemed content with her simple life, finding joy in helping others and caring for her family. Adebayo decided to put Alana through the same tests he had used for the royal candidates back at the palace. However, this time, the tests happened naturally through the daily interactions. The first test came when a poor old woman approached the stall, hungry but with no money to pay. Without hesitation, Alana prepared a meal for her, refusing any payment. "We all have days when we need help," Alana said simply. "Today I can give help, tomorrow I might need it." The second test occurred when a wealthy merchant tried to convince Alana to sell her prime location to him for his own business. He offered a substantial sum, enough to solve many of Alana's financial worries. But she refused. "This stall feeds my family and helps our community," she explained. "Money isn't everything." The third test was one of honesty. One day, a customer accidentally overpaid for his meal. Alana immediately called him back to return the extra money, even though the man hadn't noticed his mistake. With each passing day, Adebayo's admiration for Alana grew. She had passed every test with flying colors, showing compassion, integrity, and wisdom. But there was one final test Adebayo needed to conduct, a test of true love and loyalty. As the deadline for finding a wife drew dangerously close, Adebayo knew he had to act fast. He had grown to love Alana, but he needed to be sure her feelings were genuine and not influenced by his royal status. He confided in his closest friend from the palace, Prince Chidi from a neighboring kingdom, asking for his help. Chidi agreed to visit the village, posing as a wealthy merchant interested in Alana. When Chidi arrived, resplendent in fine clothes and jewels, he made a beeline for Alana's yam stall. Adebayo watched from a distance, his heart pounding. Chidi showered Alana with compliments and expensive gifts, trying to win her affection. He spoke of the luxurious life he could provide her, far away from the dusty village and humble yam stall. Alana listened politely but firmly refused all of Chidi's advances and gifts. "I'm flattered," she said, "but my heart belongs to another. He may not be wealthy, but he is kind, hardworking, and has a good heart. That's worth more than all the gold in the world." Adebayo's heart soared at Alana's words. She had passed the final test with flying colors. He knew then that he had found his queen. The next morning, Adebayo woke early, his heart full of love and excitement. He knew it was time to reveal his true identity to Alana. As they prepared to open the yam stall, Adebayo took Alana's hands in his. "Alana," he said softly, "there's something I need to tell you." Just then, the sound of trumpets filled the air. A royal procession was making its way into the village, led by King Oluwaseyi and Queen Folake themselves. Alana looked at Adebayo in confusion, but he simply smiled and led her towards the procession. As they approached, the king and queen dismounted from their horses. "Mother, father," Adebayo said, bowing slightly, "I'd like you to meet Alana, the woman I choose to be my wife and your future queen." Alana's eyes widened in shock as she realized the implications of Adebayo's words. You're the prince," she gasped. Adebayo nodded, explaining his disguise and his quest to find a wife who would love him for who he was, not for his crown. "You've shown me kindness, generosity, and love without knowing my true identity," he said. "You are the queen our kingdom needs." Tears welled up in Alana's eyes. "But I'm just a simple yam seller," she protested. Queen Folake stepped forward, taking Alana's hands in hers. "My dear," she said warmly, "it is your simplicity, your kindness, and your strength that make you perfect for this role." King Oluwaseyi nodded in agreement. "Our son has chosen wisely," he declared. As the village erupted in cheers and celebration, Adebayo knelt before Alana. "I love you," he said simply. "Will you marry me and rule by my side?" Through her tears, Alana nodded. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. The news of Prince Adebayo's engagement spread through the kingdom like wildfire. Many were surprised that the prince had chosen a common yam seller as his bride, but those who knew Alana understood the wisdom of his choice. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Alana underwent a crash course in royal etiquette and protocol. But Adebayo insisted that she shouldn't change who she was. "Your kind heart and practical wisdom are what our people need," he told her. On the day of the wedding, the capital city was transformed into a vibrant celebration of love and unity. People from all walks of life came to witness the union of their prince to the yam seller who had stolen his heart. Alana walked down the aisle, resplendent in a gown that combined royal elegance with traditional designs from her village. As she approached Adebayo, her eyes shining with love and determination, he knew without a doubt that he had made the right choice. The ceremony was a beautiful blend of royal tradition and simple, heartfelt vows. Adebayo and Alana promised not only to love and support each other but also to serve their people with compassion and wisdom. As the newlyweds stepped out onto the palace balcony to greet the cheering crowds, Adebayo turned to his bride. "Are you ready for this new life?" he asked softly. Alana squeezed his hand. "As long as we're together," she replied, "I'm ready for anything." In the years that followed, King Adebayo and Queen Alana became beloved rulers, known for their fairness, compassion, and understanding of the common people's needs. Alana never forgot her humble beginnings, often visiting villages and markets to stay connected with the people. Together, they ushered in an era of prosperity and peace for their kingdom, proving that true love, kindness, and wisdom are the most valuable qualities in both life and leadership. Answer: the tale of the prince who disguised himself as a commoner to find true love became a favorite story told throughout the kingdom for generations to come, reminding everyone that real worth lies not in wealth or status, but in the content of one's character.